Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Smith. This is my presentation for my chosen graphic novel for this week. Um, just want to take a moment to congratulate everybody. We made it to week 4 as the countdown to graduation gets closer. Hope everyone found a new um, found likeness or different viewpoint when it comes to comics. I know I definitely did. Um, but we are here nonetheless. So hope everyone had a strong month as we continue to move forward. And I hope you guys enjoy this presentation. All right, so my chosen title or my graphic novel for this week is entitled Exit Wounds. It is written and illustrated by Rutu Modan. I hope I didn't butcher the name. But yeah, she is the author and illustrator. It was published by Drawn and Quarterly in 2007, and it's roughly about 172 pages, give or take a little bit less, as a lot of the pages add in a interview at the end. Just kind to it basically goes over the process and just some of the creative endeavors creating this novel. So I want to say roughly around, I'll give or take 165 pages, with the 7 to come or so, just like some insight and behind the scenes on the creation of this story. So in my opinion, this story would definitely fall under the category of a genuine graphic novel, as just based off of the assignments that we went through for the last 3 weeks or so, with us having to choose our own comics to read, and roughly we were keeping it at a minimum of about 20 pages. This story obviously surpasses that, like I mentioned, with the 160 some odd pages of this story. Definitely think that it does follow our model of the 3-act structure, which we do have a beginning, a middle, and an end, as we ultimately unfold this story over the course of those pages. Act 1 really introducing us to our characters in the story, where one of the main ones by the name of Kobe, which in my opinion would be the protagonist. We get introduced to Numi, also his aunt and uncle, who raised him as a child into his adulthood. What drew him to move in with them was a falling out that he had with his father post the passing of his mom. Ultimately, just having a falling out with him, which, got him kicked out of the house, which then moving in with his aunt and uncles to raise him. Act 2 introduces us to our issue or dilemma that we are going to unfold in the story, and ultimately helps us understand what the point or what the goal is of the characters once we are underway on that journey. And then Act 3 ultimately culminating everything with an end and a resolution to the journey that they're on. Act 1 roughly begins at page 7, ends around page 39. Act 2 unfolds with page 40 up until around page 94, where that act ends. And then Act 3 picks up with our resolutions from pages 95 to about 164. A lot of information is disclosed within those pages there, so we ultimately get a full-on understanding of what the point of the story is, what it's about, where it's trying to take us, and then ultimately getting to the end and finding out if our characters are actually going to accomplish the goal that they set out to do. I do believe that the story does establish effective transitions. It is easy for the reader to kind of dictate and pinpoint where we are in the story, as it progressively just takes us throughout their journey and their adventures to kind of find out what happened to Kobe's father, and it takes us day by day, little by little, with all the moves and transitions through the stories that they make to try to ultimately find out what they're looking for. As it relates to McCloud's ideas of transition, in this one, I think it kind of falls under a couple of different categories within this story. I would say movement to movement, actions to action, subject to subject, scene to scene, and aspect to aspect. how it's kind of illustrated and how the story goes along within this graphic novel. I think the author was very particular and very careful not to allow us to lose our place within the story. Every scenario is kind of explained in detail why they're doing something, and you kind of have a better understanding throughout the different actions that they take. So I think it was very effective, and because it was so particular and aligned and flowed so well, it just makes it an easy follow so that you don't get lost. The story does progress rather slow, as we get a lot of questions more so than answers in a lot of the scenarios, and then as it starts to pick up at the tail end of Act 2 and then ultimately in Act 3 to come to our resolution, it does a good job of explaining each and every panel and you know what's going on based off of the actions in the picture or the dialogue from the characters, and again allows an easy flow. Obviously, with the story being 160 pages, you don't want to be bored with a lot of things that you're reading and having certain scenarios just kind of drag on for too long. At times it does tend to do that, but it still moves the story along where I don't feel we're ever given any unnecessary information on what's going on within the story. But at some point in time, it does drag a little just to get us to saying, hey, I just want to find out what's going to happen next. But the way that the transitions move effectively, it does keep you engaged and locked in to want to find out, are they ultimately going to find out what happened to his dad? Is the body that they're trying to get to and identify, is it actually him? As we ultimately learned about the Z pattern and the proper, I want to say, formatting of a comic, when you're reading, dialogue and kind of following along with the story, the directional flow definitely works effectively, and the combination of the artwork makes everything an easy follow. There isn't any point where you're seeing any pictures or any dialogue that just doesn't make sense to go along with the story. Every piece, like I stated, is particularly placed in a way where you can follow it, you can understand what's happening, and then ultimately uncover why this is important for us to move forward and progress within the story itself. So I definitely think the directional flow of everything does work. I ultimately recommend this to my classmates. I want to say yes, because it definitely does have a good storyline, definitely has a good plot. For me, at times, it just did drag on a little bit too slow for me. Like I said, this was over 160 pages. I was able to read this in one night, because ultimately, like I said, with the storyline and how it plays out, you do want to find out, if they're going to figure out if this is his father that they found. Is it actually his father that passed? And you want to just find out what the resolution is going to be. They go through so many obstacles of trying to figure out what happened, is if this actually is true. So you want to see that to the end. So you're gonna keep reading if anything in that regard. As far as recommending it to my friends, me personally, with the friends that I have, they probably would not pick this up. But if I mentioned, hey, they had this in the movie and this is what it could tell, they probably would check it out and then recommend that they double back and then read the graphic novel afterwards. I would position it to them still, because like I said, the storyline and the plot, has a very good, it is put together very nicely. It's just, again, like I said, it just drags it a little bit slowly. But ultimately, the story itself, where you have the dynamic of the father-son relationship, which a lot of people can relate to. We have an estranged love triangle, so to speak, with multiple women coming forth saying, "Hey, I was with him as well." We even get a little dynamic between Kobe and Numi at one point. With us understanding that she was the girlfriend to the father, and then they're on this journey for so long that they ultimately start to gain feelings for each other. where we even have some intimate moments with them. And then in the end, they end up, I want to say, becoming a couple, just, based off how the story ends. So you get a lot of different elements that people kind of find entertaining when it comes to a good comic or a good book and a good movie. So with those aspects, I would recommend to classmates. I definitely would recommend to my friends. So here is one quick little fun fact about my graphic novel Exit Wounds. It was the recipient and winner of the 2008 Eisner Awards for the best graphic album. So definitely a popular story. Obviously, we can see an award-winning one. So that is my presentation on my graphic novel for this week. Again, entitled Exit Wounds. The link will be posted in the submission for you guys to check out if you wish. I believe it was about $11.95 or so, just a shade under $12 on Comixology. This will definitely mark as the first time I've purchased a comic. But I wasn't disappointed. So like I said, you guys can check it out. The link will be below. And good luck the rest of the way, everyone. Take care and happy holidays.